Thank you everyone for your time. Thank you for Enfocus for inviting Tilia Labs on your virtual safari. Really appreciate it, and yeah, look forward to connecting with your customer base. So, quick, brief introduction, excuse me, of myself. My name is Tyler Thompson. I'm the Solutions Director here at Tilia Labs. I've been in the industry ever since graduating from Clemson University in 2012. And I'm based down in sunny South Carolina and also hold a Master's of Science degree from Denver University in Computer Information Systems. So for our webinar today, we're going to start with a quick introduction of Tilia Labs. So for those of you who don't know who we are, just give you a brief overview of our organization. Then we will talk a bit about what really is this Imposition AI product? What does it do? How can I use it? Then we'll look take a deep dive on a demo of Imposition AI and kind of explain how it works and how you set it up. And then we will look at how we take what we saw inside of Phoenix and automate that via Enfocus Switch. And then I'll leave the last 15 minutes or so for questions and answers. So as Michael mentioned, yeah, if you have questions along the way, chat them over. I've got a colleague on in the session as well, George Follickman, who will be monitoring those chats. Feel free to chat, and he'll try and answer if he can as quickly via the chat. Otherwise, we'll answer it at the end. All right. So a little bit about Tilia Labs. We are a software company, and we are only a software company. We aren't tied to any hardware manufacturer. We are an incorporation, Tilia Labs, that is strictly developing products for the printing and packaging market. And we are a recent and very proud recipient of the 2019 Intertech Award for our true AI technology, which is exactly what we will be talking about today. But we were founded in April of 2012, so relatively newer to the printing and packaging space. And we're based in Ottawa, Canada. We've got a team of developers that sit in Toronto. We've also got a team of developers in QA that sit in Japan. And then here, where I'm based in the US, we've got a team of sales, support, and marketing. So global company. We've, as you can see, sold well, a bit over now 500 licenses year to date in over 32 countries. So we've got global distribution, and you know, anyone on the line who has questions or needs a sales contact, please let us know, and we will get you in touch with your local distributor. So our product mix, we're going to focus on Tilia Phoenix primarily today, and how that works inside of Switch. But we've also got a few other subset products of Phoenix Griffin, which is for sign in wide format, nesting and impositioning. We have Tilia Aries, which is a developed specifically for label step and repeat, and then Tilia Cloud, which is our licensing platform. So, okay, let's talk a little bit about what even is artificial intelligence before we dive into the product. AI, and this whole kind of buzzword around AI is actually being used everywhere. We see it, certainly see it in our personal lives every day with our iPhones and Facebook and games like AlphaGo that are beating us, and you know, very large data sets of you know, maps or overlaid information like you see in the far right hand side, where this kind of real-time decision-making process is happening by computers. And we also, you know, see this being leveraged more and more in the medical space. AI is being used to evaluate, you know, hundreds and thousands of images of for pathologists of human, skin cells in identifying if those skin cells are cancerous or non-cancerous. So, AI is used to really aggregate and make decisions around huge data sets of information. So, how do we, what does that really mean for printing and packaging, right? Like what I want to really explain is how Phoenix and Tilia Labs is leveraging AI to navigate these large data sets and search spaces to make decisions around impositioning and planning. So I'm going to run through a couple quick examples. And a large data set can start with something as simple as how do we take this 9-inch by 9-inch order or sign that our customer ordered at a quantity of 5,000 and put this up on a sheet or on our production run in the most cost-effective manner. And this is a pretty simple answer, right? If I'm not gonna, I'll spare you the time here, but if you came up with 8 up on a sheet, that's correct, right? If we have one SKU that's the customer ordered 50,000 of these, that means we can put 8 up on our 40-inch sheet, and we will run this particular press form for 6,250 sheets. So that's a pretty simple problem to solve, but it gets a little more complex when we start adding additional items, additional SKUs or additional print items. So in this scenario, if we were to impose and plan this job for production, how many of each of these items would I put on a sheet? And how many sheets is that going to be in total for this particular job? And how many different press forms is this going to take to fulfill this customer's request of 2 SKUs, one at 50,000 and one at 25,000? So there's 2 ways to answer this question, right? You've got one way where we can overrun by about 20% SKU number 2. And that is going to allow us to run this on one press form to fulfill this job at 10,000 sheets. So we're going to get 8 up total, 3 of the orange and 5 of the blue. But there's another way to run this job, right? We could run single item per press runs or single runs. And instead of 10,000 sheets, if we run it this way, SKU 2 on its own press form and SKU 1 on its own press form, we're going to save about 1,700 sheets. But we've now introduced another press run, right? And a press changeover, a press cleanup. So what is the most cost-effective way to actually run this job? And this is a very simple scenario here, right? Where we only have 2 SKUs. The problem is exacerbated when we start trying to plan and impose several SKUs, right? Ranging from quantities of 500 to 500,000 potentially. And what is the best and most cost optimal way to run the job? Well, when you're planning production, a planner is typically looking at several different variables to make this decision in this kind of human decision-making process. You're looking at your SKUs, the quantities that you're trying to match up. You're looking at your different output devices that are possible in production, right? You're looking at the cost and your stocks and your different stock sizes, right? And when you add up all of these different possible permutations of running your orders through production, you get this just infinite, number of different possibilities, right? So why are we, expecting humans to try and solve this problem? And why is this problem even important? Well, I think everyone is starting to get hit with the cost of raw goods going up. They're certainly not going down. And the printer converter is constantly being challenged with shorter run lengths, increased number of SKUs, and you can see from this survey, from trend analysis, fast turnarounds is the most important thing as of last year. in the printer converter or a supplier. So, we're now being challenged with these short run lengths, fast turnaround times, and the only way we can really start solving this problem is to introduce technology into our workflow. So this is the problem that we're trying to solve. We're trying to take, this process of human planning and human impositioning, simplify
Ladies and gentlemen, just a minute. I think we lost some audio there. I'm trying to get Tyler back. Tyler, can you hear me? If so, we cannot hear you.
Let's give him just 1 minute.
Yep, ladies and gentlemen, sorry, I think we have some technical difficulties and Tyler may have dropped out on us.
In which case I can pick up where he left off if you give me 1 moment to pull up the presentation.
Well, first we start.
Tyler.
Yep.
We lost you for about 2 minutes. We were back on the slide where there was a face slap. So I think we were at least 2 slides back. 3, there we go. We lost you right there, buddy. So you may want to pick up from there and try again.
All right, sorry about that. Can you hear me now?
We can hear you just fine.
Okay, perfect. So yeah, what I want to do is or the problem that we're trying to solve is human planning, right? We're trying to look at a very large data set of possible different ways of running production and allowing Phoenix to evaluate, or a computer, an algorithm to evaluate those permutations and hone in on the most cost-effective way of running and comboing and imposing your jobs. So you can see down here in the bottom right corner here the number of results, right? Inside of Phoenix, Phoenix is ingesting your orders, and in this case, I'm asking Phoenix to evaluate on my 7900 or my CD102 across my 39 different sheet sizes. Imposition AI is navigating this huge search space of different possibilities to come to the conclusion of the most cost-effective way of comboing and running your jobs. Can you still hear me, Michael? Just want to make sure not losing me.
Yes, Tyler, we can still hear you.
Yeah, we can hear you. Sorry, it took a minute to turn my microphone back on.
Yeah, no worries. Okay, so how does all this work? How does this imposition AI work? Well, we start by inventorying and teaching Phoenix about your devices or your production capabilities. So inside of Phoenix, inside of Phoenix's application, you inventory both your printing devices, be it digital, web-fed, sheet-fed, flexo, offset, rotogravure. Make Phoenix aware of your presses and the cost of your presses and the speed of your presses, as well as your finishing equipment. For example, like your digital finishing table, zoomed, we have a direct integration with Zoomed Cut Center, which allows you to estimate cut times, for example, for digital finishing. So you teach Phoenix about your equipment. You also teach Phoenix about your stocks and your stock sizes and the costing of the stocks. And the more information that you give Phoenix, the more accurate your costing is when you're modeling your production environment inside of Phoenix. the better decisions it's going to make when it's evaluating, the different permutations, either different sheet sizes or different presses to potentially produce your orders on. And then once you've done that, Phoenix will then dynamically nest and impose. So, Phoenix isn't using any templates. And what it's doing is evaluating, again, looking at different press combinations, looking at your finishing equipment, and looking at your different stock sizes to pack, nest, and produce your orders and achieve your order quantities in the most cost-effective manner. So you can see after about a minute here, Phoenix is generated several different results, sorting them by the most cost-effective way. So I'm going to walk you through two demos of Phoenix, and then we're going to look at how we automate that with Switch. So we're going to start with Sheetfed offset planning. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to start in Phoenix. So I guess first couple of things about Phoenix is it's cross-platform. So Phoenix runs, and it needs to run, by the way, when you're using Switch as well. But runs on a Mac, Mac OS, Windows, or Linux. So truly cross-platform. And I'm going to start by showing the demo inside of the user interface, just so we can get an idea of what Phoenix is doing, and then I'll automate this in Switch. So what I'm going to start doing is I could just drag my items into Phoenix's UI, but instead I've got a CSV file, which is a data file of orders from my business system. In my case, I pulled this from FileMaker. So you can see I've got each order. I've got the order quantity, the bleed that I want, the stock. I can pass a ton of different properties, but I'm just keeping it simple here, specifying my minimax overruns, and then the name of my artwork file. And what Phoenix is going to do is import that and map the CSV file to the properties that Phoenix is expecting. So very simple workflow. Getting data right into Phoenix is very simple via CSV. And then once my items are in, you can see I've got my orders in here. Phoenix has filled out the order quantity right from that CSV file on the left-hand side. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to plan this job as if I'm a typical production planner. And a typical production planner, because a human is typically not capable of thinking of all the different permutations, a human will take the most simple route, right? And say, all right, I'm going to take these 13 orders and run them on a single press run per sheet. So you can see when I click go, Phoenix solves that problem in nearly instantaneously. We just figured out on our 40-inch B1 press sheet the max number out per order. And that's going to cost us, you can see here, about $8,000, right? That's because it's 13 press runs, 13 make readies, 13 press cleanups. We get our total copy count, right? If we run this single item per form. And then Phoenix, of course, creates your imposition file. So it's a fully dynamic, add your marks, create your fully imposed print ready file. Then what I'm going to do is I want to now beat that estimate, right? So, or beat that order. So that's 13 hours on press and $8,000. Now I'm going to let Phoenix run through, using Imposition AI, run through all the different permutations here. So I'm going to set the default profile, which Phoenix is now going to aggressively combo these items. And I'm going to evaluate all of my different sheet sizes, and I'm going to evaluate and then introduce a digital press. So when I do that, now you can see Phoenix begins to generate, hundreds and thousands of results, sorting them by the most cost-effective. And there is really an infinite number of ways to solve this problem, right? These, 13 items with their minimax overruns across 2 different presses, across 39 different sheet sizes. I mean, there is an infinite number of ways to tackle this problem. And Phoenix is searching that huge search base. And what we did is we got that order down from $8,000 in production down to 1,000, right? This is a bit exaggerated because now I've introduced a digital press here, but you can see the power and dynamicness of Phoenix, right? It's able to and capable of figuring out the most cost-effective way to run these jobs based on your order quantities, based on the inks, based on your production specifications and costing. And the result of the algorithm, of course, is going to be a fully imposed print-ready file and cut file. But what I like to point out here is this production report. So if I look at the report of what we just planned there, Phoenix will give you a production report, which shows you each press form and the copy count of each press form. And from that CSV file, Phoenix is also pulling out each order. And in this case, this is again a commercial offset scenario here. But the customer ordered 7,000 of these items or these postcards. And because I let Phoenix auto compute the overage, Phoenix said it's most cost effective to almost do 50% overrun in this scenario. And what normally happens is, Phoenix will, a typical human planner will look at this and say, okay, well, 7,000, it's not comboing with anything that's going to allow, typically about 1 to 5% overage is, or maybe 10% overage is what a human planner would look at. And then what they would do is say, no, it doesn't hit our 10% max 10% over, so I'm going to move this to a new press form by itself. And what that means and what Phoenix is saying is that's actually more costly to the company based on your production costs versus sneaking this on an existing press run, right? Because if you move this to a press run, it's 4 more sets of plates, another press cleanup. You've modeled your cost and cleanup at an hour changeover for your offset press at $380 an hour, right? Phoenix is saying, look, it's actually more cost effective to just to overrun your item. So I'll just run through another demo, but this time instead of square cut sheet fed offset work, I'm going to do more of a wide format job inside of Phoenix. So I'm going to grab my CSV order sheet. Again, it's got several different items in there. I'll fast forward it a bit. Import my CSV file. And you can see Phoenix also detects shapes based on either the CAD or the spot colors in the PDF. So I've got several different, 64 different items in here. And now I'm going to ask Phoenix to use the wide format profile, which is going to do our true shape nesting and evaluate it on all of my presses against my 2 different corrugated stocks. And now Phoenix is going to, again, figure out how we take these 64 items with their copy counts and begin to pack and nest, trying to reduce press time, trying to reduce, in this case, because it's a digital press, trying to reduce material consumption. And it's going to start spitting back our results. When I apply this result, Phoenix is also, again, for digital finishing and digital print to cut. It will create your layouts, of course, and then add in your barcodes for production, your camera marks for your digital finishing equipment, and create your print and cut files for production. So I saved the best for last. How do we automate this? Well, the reason I walked you through the interface is because, well, automation through Enfocus Switch is simple and it's lights out. So it's almost kind of boring to show, but the value and the amount of dev that we put into our configurator, I think is something that I certainly want to focus on and reiterate in this presentation. Our Switch configurator is completely dynamic, and it's drivable via your Switch variables that already exist and that you've already built inside of your workflows. So, the Tilia Phoenix Switch configurator allows you to import, directly from a library if you want to interface with Phoenix similar to how I was in the UI. So we've got a direct connection and feeding that back into Switch. or you can drive this with your switch variables that you already know and love. And the value of Phoenix is it covers everything from commercial offset, cut and stack type work, to sign and display wide format, to packaging and folding cartons with dies, all in one simple configurator. So let's take a look at how this works. So we'll start by just a very simple parsing a PDF file name. So I'm going to turn inside of Phoenix, I'm going to turn my switch configurator, my switch connector on. Oops. Wait, come back here. Okay, I'm going to turn my switch connector on. And inside of switch now, I've got a very basic workflow. And you can see our configurator here. I'm just going to drive the quantity and material right from the PDF file name. So you can see my PDF file name, just drop it right into switch. And now I've automated this entire process without needing to open Phoenix in the UI. So our outputs, again, PDF file, a report of what Phoenix did. So here's our PDF print file that we'll send to press. We've got our barcodes dynamically added from Phoenix. We've got our report that's built, so a production report, as you saw before in Phoenix, that goes to production, and then of course your cut files for your cut PDF files that you send to your digital finishing equipment. So pretty simple. Now I'm going to just batch process multiple PDFs via the file name. So I think this, again, should be very simple for an existing switch user to understand how this works. And the intention of our configurator, and the reason we spent so much time in dev on this configurator, is to make it simple, so you don't have to have thousands of different strings going off, right, just to drive your imposition. Phoenix is fully dynamic, and the configurator allows you to drive it via switch variables. So there you go. This is that's an area where we're nesting our wide format POP here. And then I'll do one last demo here where I'm going to drive the switch Phoenix configurator via a CSV data file. And again, you map your CSV file once inside of Phoenix, and once that's done, you don't need to do really anything else inside of your configurator other than come up in your configurator and say that you want to drive it via the input mode of CSV input instead of file input. And again, I can come in here and drive my configurator with variables, which I'm going to do in this case. But I'm going to drop my CSV file into my Phoenix, or into my switch UI here, give it an order number. So we kind of went all out on this demo here, put a nice little UI in front of it with switch. So, okay, there it goes. Our CSV file is going in. You can see now it's coming into Phoenix to be planned via the CSV file. And then we're going to stop it at a checkpoint to make sure everything looks good. So, driving or using a CSV file directly from your business system inside of the switch or Phoenix configurator is a very simple process and doesn't require any extra steps. So in this case, we've got a couple 50 or so items here that we're planning. We look at a report, we say it looks good, push it to print, and we're off in processing our job. All right. So just kind of a funny one of our customer use cases. This was their imposition workflow prior to implementing the Phoenix configurator. I'm sure everyone on this call is probably quite familiar with these scenarios, right? Where you're having to route by material and thickness and blah blah blah, right? All of this is done dynamically through Phoenix, right? Simplify your process, make it supportable, make it manageable, make it scalable, and this can all be done through Phoenix's configurator. And I'll just wrap it up here with a couple other applications that we didn't cover, just that I want to make you aware of. Phoenix can do the CAD-based nesting and positioning for folding cartons or any CAD-based scenario. We can use existing dies, and we have a pattern matching algorithm that will go and find your dies based on the shape of the one-up. Very intelligent and slick. We've now introduced our bookwork in positioning. So we've got saddle stitch perfect bound. We can do calendars in digital web for dynamic digital books. And no templates. It's all parametric with the folding patterns in the incoming PDF files for our bookwork in positioning. We've got cut and stack, Sheetfed offset labels, banners in wide format, digital label optimization in frame and lane ganging for digital label production. And I will end it there. I'll leave this up on the screen with the benefits here. But yeah, Michael, throw it back over to you and open it up for questions at this point.
All right, Tyler. Thank you very much. That was a very good, nice, informative presentation. And yes, you got some questions going here. First, just a real quick and easy one for you. Do you got any dealers in Romania?
Ooh, George on the phone is in charge of our distribution channels. George?
That's a good question. I gotta go check our network. Michael, if you can send that one to me a little bit later, maybe I can get back to that person personally.
All right, it'll be in your report that you'll get tomorrow. So customer, they'll get back to you probably sometime tomorrow or over the weekend and let you know who the dealer is in Romania or how you can get more information about Phoenix there. Okay, so here's a more complicated question for you. What about various post-press operations? For example, we print business cards. Some SKUs have lamination, for example. So we'll have to put lamination SKUs together. So we'll just cut them in one regular piece after printing and post-process efficiently. So you understand what they're getting at there, Tyler?
Yeah, I do. And that's a really good question. I am firing up Phoenix right now, and I will explain our anti-mixing rules and mixing rules. So you can pass into, do you see Phoenix on the screen?
Yes, we do.
All right, excellent. So inside of Phoenix, when you are creating your plan, we've got the ability to add plan rules. So our plan rules allow you to pass, again, variables in from the switch configurator onto your product, a property on your product. And this allows you to then control how Phoenix mixes or anti-mixes those scenarios. So you can have groups within groups and really an unlimited number of rules here to make Phoenix more intelligent. So one example would be, I think he was asking about lamination. So if you pass a property over called lamination on each of your products inside of Phoenix, then you could say, okay, you need to make sure that my lamination of my products is equal in order for them to be mixed. If it's not equal, it's going to keep them separated, right? So you could do this, we have customers using this for like zip codes and in stores, right? So especially for retail, they're wanting to group all of the stores together on one press run or as close together as they can from a huge list of orders.
So you can, so it looks like you can realistically make up a list of finishing, attributes that whatever you need, as long as you can get the data in your data set. Is that correct?
That's right. Yes, sir. That's right. And that's the beauty of Switch, right? So we can connect with our business systems, pull that data, push it into Phoenix, and let Phoenix, allow you to build custom rules inside Phoenix to drive that type of automation.
That's great. That's great. Because that really adds a lot of flexibility. Because as you know, everyone's got different setups, different finishing, and that's nice that it can be customized that easily.
Yeah.
Another customer had kind of a quick question here. He asked, is Phoenix only running on Mac and Switch, or is it run on Windows as well, other platforms? Maybe you could run through
Yeah.
that real quick, kind of what the supported platform.
Yep. So Phoenix. Oh yeah, it must have really dropped there for a bit. But Phoenix runs on Mac OS, like I'm running it, Windows, or Linux. So it is truly cross-platform in that regard, and you can run, on any of those platforms. You can run our automation, which is our switch connector. And then if you want our user interface driven, like I was showing in the demos, that runs on Windows or Mac OS. So
Okay.
yeah.
Hopefully, if that doesn't answer your question, whoever asked that, sorry, I moved through. There's a lot of questions here, so I've lost you already. So if that doesn't answer it, chime back in and we'll take care of you. So here's a more complicated question that someone asked. In Phoenix, can we use specific color bars? Also, in the Imposition, we need all sorts of specific barcodes, text labels, and so on. Is there any way to use it? Just go ahead and answer that part, and then I'll look at the rest of this question and see if I can come up with a good way to answer.
So all of our marks are built. You build your marks inside of Phoenix, and then via the Switch configurator, you can add marks to products dynamically and variably. You can add marks to a press, and you can add marks even to your sheet for production. And all of our marks are dynamic and driven with variables. So for example, I'll just make a simple QR code here. And you can see when I use the less than sign, this gives us to all of our dynamic properties. So if I wanted to pass the job dot client name, for example, right? Then you can push that information in from Switch. If there's not a mark, we can also have marks of PDF files, so all of your custom color bars, for example, and then you can map your color bars with our color mapping technology inside of your mark. And then we also have introduced our scripting mark. Our scripting mark is the most brilliant thing I've ever seen in pre-production software. We have now instantiated and allow you to drive variables with it's like Illustrator, scripting Illustrator, right? So you can instantiate a pen tool and start passing us XY coordinates via variables, and we can start drawing art. So if you have some kind of crazy dynamic mark and you can think of some way to script that into a scriptable position in a scriptable shape. If we don't have it already built, that's why we've introduced this script mark. So very, very dynamic with our marking system.
All right. Well, I think that answers actually the second half of their question, because they say if not, then so I think it's the answer was yes, you can do it, and there's a lot of different ways to deal with marks and custom marks on top of that.
Yes.
Cosmin, if we didn't answer your question completely, or if you have any other questions, go ahead, type it in real quick, and we can ask the follow-up. We have another question from Thomas. He says, when using Phoenix Configurator, what other modules are needed in Switch in order to use all the features? So do we need the metadata module, MIS integration? What do we need to make the most use out of Phoenix?
That is a very good question.
Probably one better answered by the Enfocus people. Because that is tough, actually, because a lot depends. You may need the scripting module, depending on, you may need metadata module, you may need, I know there's a combination that comes with Switch and Phoenix together, and that's sort of a, but that doesn't have any of the other modules. I'm not sure. You tell me. What do you know? I'm having trouble remembering myself.
Yeah, so the metadata module I know is required. I don't know if Sean is on this call or not. He's probably not. But
But
we'll send that. We'll send you that in an email. I'm not as well versed in the Switch price book as of course a Switch reseller. So yeah, maybe we can table that one and get back.
yeah, well, we know we need the metadata module because that's going to help drive the variables. And then of course there's a lot that depends on, you know, your MIS solution and whether or not you need the database module and the scripting module, so on and so forth. So there's a lot of variables in there that could swap it around or make it a little bit more complex than that. And let's see here, one more question. Is it true that Phoenix does have some external API, so we can use it as an engine for our in-house software? We do not use Switch. Oh my God, how could that be? But anyway, well, we understand you got your own thing and you want to know if you got an API to hook it into, so maybe you can answer that for me.
Yeah, can you see my screen still? I don't know if
Yeah,
it's
we can
paused
see your
or.
screen.
Okay, can you see the API interface here?
Yeah, we can.
Okay, so we've got a Swagger-based API. Every single thing that I've done in the demos in the UI has an associated REST API call. This again is the beauty of a more modern imposition tool. Yeah, we always, when we develop new features, we always kind of build it with this REST API first mentality, right? Because this is certainly the future. And you know, that this is essentially what Switch is using, although we've just, you know, taken the time and built that into a nice drop-down interface inside of the Switch configurator.
That's awesome. That's actually really powerful to have that API there, and that's very nice. You know, so that makes it very flexible, and hopefully that answers the question for that customer. And oh, by the way, someone answered one of the Enfocus integrators that are in the audience answered, and as far as the modules go, they said the core engine, configurator module, metadata module are the minimum modules needed to run Phoenix sufficiently, and then of course everything else depends on, you know, if you're going to hook into your MIS and that sort of thing, and any other special functionality that you need.
Yep.
Thank you very much for everything today. And
Yes, sir. Yeah, I just wanted to thank everyone on the call on behalf of Tilia Labs and thank Enfocus for inviting us on the virtual safari. It's always a pleasure. And yeah, thank you everyone for your time.